Hey everybody, welcome back to Hoop and the Harm. We've been away for a little bit, but luckily the NBA goes at a slow pace at the end of the year. So a lot's happened.
I don't know. It feels pretty fast paced to me.
I'm in Phoenix, so I'm watching
We're rolling to the finish line.
No, we turned around. We're walking backwards. It's really bad. We don't need to get into that. Let's first get into the update, because let's get to the E one. Can we just update everyone on what we're thinking on the Eastern Conference? Because I think the Eastern Conference is a lot easier right now.
For sure.
And everyone's not debating the Eastern Conference. The Western Conference has taken over the world, so we can hit the Eastern Conference pretty quick. If you want to just give us your how you feeling after that Knicks Boston game?
So it wrecked me like losses do, especially to rivals, especially to games that are an opportunity to make a statement on national television. But the only thing I can say, and this is pathetic, but I've got to say it, is they didn't get blown out of the gym.
No, they did not.
They make one free throw, that in regulation that they missed, and the game's over and there's no overtime. So, but at the same time, so I think, yeah, if you want to look at it glass half full, as they say, you could say, all right, the Knicks, if they can do that, then they come out on top in some of those games, But I also, to put it back around, I can't help but feel like the Celtics, when they play teams, even when it's close, it's like they're like a cat playing with their food. Like they're like a cat that's hasn't quite killed the mouse yet and could at any moment, but it's just kind of like messing with it.
They're just cruel.
They're just toying with you. Jaylen Brown didn't play, but and so there's that factor. I don't know.
The things that I loved about it, God, you got to love the atmosphere. Man, the Knicks fans were just all in. They're all in. And you know what? The NBA, I wholeheartedly agree with all of the big heads, the big people who make tons of money doing this. The NBA is better when the Knicks are great.
Sure.
It's just really good for the product. I mean, that stadium, those fans were into it. It was a great atmosphere. From a television watching standpoint, sitting in my home, I was like, this is great.
Yeah.
It was great TV. So, fingers crossed. Hopefully the Knicks plays Boston. But tell me, what are the likelihoods? So let's just look at, what do you got? 7, 8, 9, 10. I think that's pretty set in the East at this moment.
Yeah, that looks pretty much set. It looks like it's going to be, I guess 9 and 10 could flip-flop. I guess technically with 3 to 4 more games, they could change. I think Orlando's pretty comfortably in the 7 spot. But, none of those teams are getting into the top 6. So that's a done deal.
And of the 4 teams, we have what? Atlanta, Orlando, the Bulls,
and Miami.
So who right now are your 2 that are going to be in there in the playoffs? Because again, 7 plays 8, and the winner of 7 and 8 gets in.
Yeah.
Now 7 and 8 is who?
7 and 8 is Orlando and Atlanta. So
one of those teams immediately gets in.
Yeah. So one of those teams, I guess they win and they're in basically. One win in, they're in. Some of the 9 and 10 teams, they got to win. They got to win 2, right, to get in.
Yep, the 9-10 play each other. The winner faces off the loser of the 7-8 game.
Right. So my gut would be to go with Orlando because they finished 7th and everyone had them, at the beginning of the year as a top 6 team. I think they had a lot of injuries. Banchero is probably the best player of anybody in that 7 to 10 range. I'm gonna go with Orlando as I'm expecting them to make it into the playoffs. The other three is kind of a toss up because they've all had like a couple of games, a couple of pockets throughout the season where you're like, okay, they're a hungry team. The Knicks just played Atlanta. That's kind of fresh in my mind. I feel like they've got a lot of young, inexperienced guys, but they've, not to go off on a tangent, but they've got this guy Dyson Daniels. He's got the most steals. He leads the league in steals by almost 100 steals.
That's crazy.
And he's got the most steals in a season since Iverson played. So,
wow, like how many?
I want to make sure I got that right. I got to pull up the steal.
Yeah, pull that up because I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, that's a 20 plus. That's a while. That's a long while since Iverson was the man.
Steals per game. I mean, so he's 3 steals per game. He's averaging 3 steals per game. Jokic is second with 1.8.
The joke. Well, he doesn't have any blocks, but he probably does. But I can see him stealing the ball.
But he's only 22 years old. He's a good young defender.
I like Orlando's length as a team. So I like your Orlando pick. I'm not going to go against any of your picks on the East. I find you to be our information hub. I think I would like to see the Bulls make it as the 8 because it's fun for me.
I think it would be fun too because I think everyone had them pegged as a lottery team.
I think the biggest 2 threats that you were going to face if you 1 and 2 seed would be Orlando and the Bulls. I don't see Atlanta being a threat, even if they're a 7 or an 8 against Cleveland and Boston. But again, who are we kidding? Do you have Cleveland or Boston losing to any of these teams?
No, I don't have any of these teams. So any of these teams beating them. I would give Orlando a puncher's chance to win 2 games. I would give Chicago and Miami a puncher's chance to win 1 game.
That's fair. So the first seed and the second seed going that. Cleveland is locked in the 1 at this point. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And then Boston's locked into 2.
Boston's locked into 2.
So I would agree with you. 6 through 7, 8, 9, and 10. It's been real. Let's look at 3 through 6. I think that's pretty, in the Eastern Conference, it's kind of settled.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, although, Indiana, they got a shot. They are really heating up right now. They're playing
4
really good
currently, right?
Yep.
So 3 and 4 is the Knicks and Indiana. So in all reality, as a Knicks fan, here's a real question.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to be the 4 and win and then play Cleveland? Or do you want to be the 3, win and then play Boston? Who do you prefer to play in the second round if you were setting up what you wanted as like a coach or a GM?
As a psychotic fan, I don't want to say anybody and jinx my team, but as someone trying to be objective,
as a sports guy, I would think you want to face Cleveland, right?
I think so because, like I said, I know Boston's number 2, but the playoffs is a different beast. They're the defending champs. Even though they're number 2, everyone is acting like Boston is still the team to beat.
I would agree with that.
They really do seem like they're just toying with teams until it's time to strike. And they're like almost actively like taking nights off, so to speak. So, and they're going to just crank it up. I mean, they have such depth. They're almost a perfect team. Cleveland, they're a real threat and they're a really good team. But if anyone was to slip up in the playoffs, I'd put my money on Cleveland over Boston.
I would agree with you, but I'm saying from a standpoint of it, as you're the 3 and those are my top 2 seeds, I would prefer Cleveland. So if you lose to Indiana gets the 3 seed. It's not necessarily the worst thing in the world.
True.
But let's look at who their opponents would be. Who's 5 and 6? Because that, I think, has gone back and forth a little bit.
That's another thing too. Milwaukee currently, if the playoffs were to start today, Milwaukee would play Indiana and Detroit would play the Knicks. And, Detroit, I've been saying it on this show. I think Detroit's interesting. I think they're feisty. Milwaukee, I don't want to shortchange them at all because they still have Giannis. He's still one of the top 3 to 5 players in the league. But it doesn't look like Lillard's going to come back.
I would agree with that. Here's my thought. Speaking for you as a Knicks fan, because you're going to speak for me as a Suns fan. Mm-hmm. Since you have a team in the playoffs, I'm going to pretend like I live through you. I would want to face Milwaukee in the first round, and I'd like to face Cleveland in the second round. The reason why I say this is Detroit is playing with house money, and they're very, very physical.
Absolutely.
The Knicks do not need a physical team in the first round. That has been proven to be detrimental to Brunson.
So look at last year, yeah.
So my thought would be you're not getting Indiana, which is great to start the playoffs because Indiana, to your point, I think is really good.
Indeed.
And I think an Indiana-Boston series would be fantastic, or Indiana-Cleveland series would also be fantastic. So we are really walking into 2 series after the first round that could see Indiana, the Knicks, Cleveland, and Boston, and I don't think anyone loses on that. I think everyone's happy with that setting of the playoffs. Now, it may be 4-1, it may be 4-2, but from a standpoint of attention, competition, players can play.
The games could be closer.
The games are going to be a blast. I think the Eastern Conference has a great product. I think the first round, if you were going to say, what's the first round that interests me the most? I want to see whoever Detroit plays because I want to see if the bad boys are there. And I mean, the bad boys, they're beating the hell out of them, whoever they play. Because I feel like that's their style.
Yeah.
Their style is very physical, which means that whoever they get, you better bring it.
You know what? Detroit's got some guys that, sniffed the playoffs a couple times. They've got some vets on their team mixed in with all their young guys like Tobias Harris and Tim Hardaway Jr. and Malik Beasley. And those guys are hungry. Those guys are like, this could be it. We weren't expected. We joined this team, because we wanted to play NBA basketball, essentially. And they probably thought, a lot of them probably thought, we'll show out for Detroit and then get traded at some point to a contender. And now they're playing on a playoff team. So they're hungry.
I think the first round, the 3-4 matchups will be interesting. However that plays out. But the Eastern Conference is pretty set. We don't have a lot of confusion.
No.
We don't have to wait till I don't think you're going to have to wait till game 82 on this one.
No.
I think there's enough buffer between the teams that even if Indiana becomes a 3, Knicks become the 4, you're not crying about any of that. The Knicks get home court advantage in the first round. That's what you want.
I got the home court advantage,
and you're not going to be 2 or 1, and we all know that. So this is what you are. If I'm the Knicks again, living through you, I want my people healthy after the first round.
For sure.
I don't want people to be beat up. I feel like Milwaukee would be a nicer, more gentlemanly of a series than the Detroit Pistons. We'll see if that comes true or not. We'll see who plays the Pistons and who plays.
Either way, you want to keep it to 4 or 5 games, if possible.
The Knicks need to do that. I feel like it's going to be 6 for both Indiana and the Knicks. I feel like 4-2 would make sense. But the top 4 teams, I would be very shocked if those top 4 teams are not in the second round.
Yeah. Yeah, that would...
Unlike the Western Conference, where I would not be shocked about a lot of scenarios. But the Eastern Conference, I think the 4 teams that are the top, Indiana, Knicks, Cleveland, and Boston, those 4 teams have separated themselves. They are the better teams in that.
They are what the standings say they are.
And so those 4 teams playing each other, I'm very excited for. Now we need to hop over to the Western Conference.
Okay.
The first thing we need to do is bury the Suns. Okay, now let's go to 7, 8, 9, 10. Who are we looking at?
7, 8, 9, 10. I mean, it looks like it's going to be.
I think we need to hold on. We need to stop.
We got to go back to the tiers.
Yes, we need to go back. Okay, everyone needs to understand. Let's just look at 9 and 10, because 9 and 10, I believe, are
9 and 10 is settled. It's going to be Sacramento and Dallas.
So they get a 1-game playoff to play the loser of 7-8. So who do you think between those two teams playing is going to move on to the next round?
Between Sacramento or Dallas?
Yep.
I don't think either one moves to the next round.
No,
you mean
they play each other. One has to move on to play the next play-in game. Who do you have between those two teams?
You know what? I know the last time we talked about this, we were kind of downplaying the Kings. We were kind of seeing them drop. I think I might give the edge to the Kings against Dallas. I think I feel like
kid can't wait to leave the Dallas Mavericks. Every team, they can't wait to pack up.
I do feel like they have. I'm not saying this to be cruel. I feel like that Dallas is there because of Phoenix's negligence. I feel like Dallas is almost down.
But by the fact that you raced against a cripple, you are victorious. It's almost like you ran a race against somebody in a wheelchair. You have to win, even though you didn't run and you actually laid down and ate a snack, you still ended up winning. That's what you're saying by default. Otherwise, Dallas would be out.
It's like that veteran at the end of the bench that never gets in, and the starters are having such a bad game that the coach is like, get in, you're in the game. He's like, I'm fine. I'm on the bench here. Like I don't need to come in. And I feel like that's how Dallas is. I feel like, in the weeks after the trade, you just
think it's like a stake through the heart. Like just end it. Sacramento moves on. Okay, it's fine. I would say this. I think 9 and 10 doesn't even matter because 7 and 8 are moving on in the Western Conference.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's that much of a gap at this point.
I think so too.
I would be floored if one of those two teams.
I mean, Memphis is in kind of a tailspin too, but I still think that they would. I still think they would find a way to beat. Whoever. If Minnesota was to beat Memphis, I think they'd find a way to beat either the Kings or the Mavs.
I completely agree with you. I think whoever the 8 seed is. The loser of the 7-8. So let's just look at the next tier because this gets interesting. Between 3 and 8, what is the game differential right now? Before the games tonight. Now we're recording on a Wednesday night here.
3 and 8 or 2?
No. Not. I'm keeping Houston out of this. I feel Houston kind of separated themselves.
No, I'm saying there's two game difference.
Oh, okay.
The Lakers are at 3 and they're 40 and 31. And then Minnesota's 46 and 33. It was 8. It's crazy.
And we have what, 3-4 games left?
3 or 4 games. I know the Knicks have 3 games, so.
So I think what we can say is let's put the Lakers. I think the Lakers are in the top half of the Western. They're going to be one of the top 4.
Yeah.
Is that a fair statement?
I think so. Especially
they went
if
1-1 with OKC.
Tonight.
They're playing Dallas right now. Again, it's hard for me to believe that the Lakers have positioned themselves that they would have to lose out to be in the bottom tier, in my opinion, because there's just so many teams.
They would have to lose out.
And like for instance, Memphis plays Minnesota. There's all these teams are playing each other too. That's the other problem. Is like the Lakers have to lose out, and 3 of the other teams have to win out.
Right.
So let's say the Lakers are. Let's keep them in another conversation. So then you have the Nuggets are 4.
Mm-hmm.
Then what's the walkthrough? I think the Clippers are in there. Minnesota's in there. Memphis is in there.
No, so the Lakers are 3. The Clippers are 4. Nuggets are 5. Golden State is 6. And I do think there's a really good
7
chance.
8 right now is Minnesota and Memphis.
No, exactly.
So,
Memphis at 7 and Minnesota.
So, okay, we have to get into a coaching fire because I think this weighs into this factor right now.
Absolutely.
Denver got rid of their GM and coach. Now, here's what I think. I'm going to make up my brain of what occurred. This is when we're not in politics, so there's going to be no violence to these ideas. What I like to be inside people's fake offices of what happened. I have heard that the GM and the coach hated each other. They did not get along there at all. So my
Sounds like it.
fictitious conversation is the coach went into the GM or the GM went into the coach and they started yelling at each other about how the team is performing down the stretch and why they aren't playing Murray or why they didn't get a player or whatever it may be. So the shouting gets worse and it gets worse and it gets worse. And it just so happens the owner happens to be there and he's listening to these two guys just go crazy. They can't get off each other. They start fighting, throwing things. And then he's like, fine, that's it. Everyone's fired. You're both fired. I don't need any of this in my life. I'm a multi-billionaire, and here I'm listening to two kids act like they're the only two kids in the sandbox. So that's the scenario that happened. I think there was violence. I think people threw stuff at each other. Trophies were thrown. Glass cases were broken. And the
NBA championship trophies.
Yes, they both were like...
Larry O'Brien was hurled at someone.
Everybody's fighting. That's the only scenario. Okay, I shouldn't say this. This is the scenario in my brain that makes the most sense. They hated each other. It got to a boil because they are not performing very well. So they're out of coach. They're out of GM. I can see them falling into 7 and 8.
Sure.
And 2, just for the record, that's crazy.
It's
3 weeks ago, you and I were not even, we were talking Nuggets 2, 3.
Yeah.
Now we're saying they could be 7-8.
It's not out of the realm of possibility. I mean, they could just lose out because Murray, I don't think he's coming back, right?
I don't know what
maybe in time for playoffs.
The thing with, again, they're not being very, no one is telling you injuries nowadays. Like no. I don't even know what it is.
They
like with Brunson, like we all saw it, we know what it is. I don't know what it is with Murray. So Denver's possible as a candidate to go from 5. You said they're 5 right now? Clippers are 4?
Clippers are 4.
So they could go 5 to 7 or 5 to 8. I think that's a very easy thing to happen at the end of the season.
It sure could because there's only one game separating them from where many.
Did you believe you could see a Denver OKC round 1 matchup?
Ooh.
That is a possibility.
Which we probably would have, most of us probably would have pegged that as the conference finals in a couple months ago.
The 2 All-Star candidates, the 2 MVP candidates.
The 2 MVP candidates. And honestly, they could be in a tailspin and OKC could win in 4 games.
I really struggled to see OKC struggling with
and
whoever
Joe
comes in.
Get traded in the offseason.
Oh my God, dude, you just
chaos.
Okay, before we get to the offseason, so Golden State's hot, the Lakers are hot, the Clippers are winning, Memphis is in a
Clippers are sneaky hot right now.
So the 2 teams that I was really excited about, I shouldn't say really, the 2 teams that I really didn't pencil off as being like in the bottom, you could potentially see a Minnesota-Denver 7-8.
Yeah.
Like, think about that last year playoffs.
Yeah.
They're playing in the play-in game to be the 7 seed to face off against likely Houston.
Right.
Unless Houston has a falling away, but I think Houston's had an awakening.
No, Houston's been playing great.
So it's like in the matter of this next weekend, the next 5 days, and we'll probably do a couple more episodes once this thing gets figured out. This has so much swapping that can occur. Like for all we know, like Luke is in Dallas tonight. He could hurt his calf. If he strains his calf again right before the playoffs, like that's not out of the realm of possibility. Then the Lakers are without Luka.
Right.
And then you're like, uh-oh. And the same with like, again, any of these superstars. They get hurt right now. You lose a couple games. It's a big deal. And the other thing that I heard that I thought was somewhat nice to hear, in my opinion, somewhat kind of like, I'm glad people are starting to pay attention to this. If you take more games seriously, you wouldn't be in this damn spot.
It's true.
Like the Lakers and Golden State and all that. Golden State could have been a 2 easy if they had played up to their capabilities before the trade.
It certainly seems like Steph Curry is like got a second lease on life. Not that he was like bad at the beginning of the year by any means, but it seems like he's like peaks, prime Steph Curry now.
The argument that you can make against it is, does it really matter home field, home court, not home court? Like if you're the 3 and the 6, does it matter if Golden State? I mean, if Golden State faces off the Lakers, ESPN just canceled every other series. They're just going to do the Lakers Golden State.
Right.
In between the games, they're going to cover all the other games live from the Lakers stadium.
Yeah.
From the Lakers.
From Lakers Arena.
Yes, they're just gonna cover all the sports from the Lakers and then Golden State. That's what they want. I mean, they love those two players.
They absolutely would love that.
I personally, my desire is to see OKC take care of these big guys.
Oh, totally.
Knock off Steph, then knock off James, and then go to the finals, and then everyone can say, "Oh, they are legit." Because again, you remember like when teams like Denver won it, and they're like, "Oh, but did they really beat anybody?" You remember when they were doing that thing where like, "I don't know if they earned it."
Yeah.
Because for something in their mind, like you have to like beat the best. They're like, let's go back video game mode. So I feel like dream scenario. Okay, if I'm dreaming. OKC faces off Denver in the first round. They defeat Denver. Then they face off in the second round. They face off against Golden State. They beat Golden State. And then in the Western Conference Finals, which everybody wants, it's the Lakers versus OKC. And OKC goes to the finals, at which everybody can just say.
So I guess in that scenario, the Lakers knock off Houston.
The Lakers would be knocking off Houston, and then Golden State would need to be the 4 or 5. Because it'd be, to me, it's like Golden State Clippers, and then Lakers Houston will be great because Houston, I have been so impressed with Houston. I don't know if you've watched any of their games, but they're not easy to play against, and that coach.
That's another team that beat you out.
That coach is legit. Left Boston. Obviously, he, got fired for not being a coach, for doing other things. That he goes to Houston with, again, name me a star on Houston. Name me the superstar. Like you got Lakers, Luka, LeBron, OKC.
Superstar. They don't have that quote unquote superstar, but
they don't have a person in the MVP conversation. Like if you were to say who on Houston is the all-star.
Yeah. I mean, I think you're looking at future all-stars. I think you're looking at future superstars.
But they're the 2 in the Western Conference, and they're the legit 2. They're not kind of the 2. They're the legit 2. OKC, I could name you several players, including the possible MVP.
Right.
And I look at the Houston's team, and I watch the team. They don't back down. They play very good defense.
Very good defense.
They are legitimately where they need to be, positioning-wise, legit, and they're offensive. It's not like we're going to depend on this X, Y, Z factor. The one thing I did like, I don't know if you watched Houston play Golden State. Did you see that?
I didn't see all of that game. No.
So what they did to Curry, they basically played 4-on-4. They just put a guy, and he just basically hugged Curry without hugging, and just was like, "I'm your best friend. I don't even care about helping anybody. These other 4 people have to beat us." And I was like, "That's what you do." For a 7-game series against Curry, who's not young, that would wear him down.
Yeah.
And you have the young guns to do it. Like that's the other thing is you have the guys with the endurance, you have the guys that'll do it. You get 12 fouls against him. I don't know why you wouldn't do it.
And that's why I understand what you're saying, and part of me agrees with you. It would be really sweet to watch, OKC knock off the old guard in succession, but. Man, an OKC Houston conference final will be a lot of fun too.
That would really be like the other crowd that I thought was great to watch was when OKC played the Lakers the second game in OKC.
Mm-hmm.
That crowd was legit. Like I know the Knicks have the allure, the history, all of that jazz, but OKC fans are hungry.
Yeah, because you're talking about a city that's got one professional franchise,
and they're all in.
Major.
Did you see that? Those people were crazy.
Yep.
They will legit, like if that team was in a bar and someone talked bad about them in Oklahoma, they'd fight you. They would stand up for the team. They would be like, you don't talk about our team like that's our team. I feel like it's almost like that hometown, like college/high school vibe. It's like, yeah, those are our family.
And you know what? They love their college sports, but they're divided because they got Oklahoma State and Oklahoma there. It's either Sooners or Cowboys. But at NBA, if they're fans, they're united.
That fan base was exciting to watch. There's something to the NBA, and this is what about the playoffs that's so great. The fans are so close. Mm-hmm. And now you get rid of the regular season. So even the first 3 rows, the guys that drink and eat and get everything for free, they're into it. That was the best part about the Knicks game. That Knicks game, those first 3 rows, they may have had all the celebrities. The celebrities were into the game. Yeah. They weren't there to meet each other and get a script approved.
There's always gonna be people at the Knicks games who just got a free ticket and just don't know anything about it and just like kind of like there for the ambiance. But they've got some real celebrity hardcore fans.
But as the season goes on, that's my point. Once you get to the playoffs, like those fans get legit crazy. So I loved seeing OKC. I love seeing the Knicks. I love seeing these teams that are just like, because again, I know Boston fans get crazy and the Lakers, but I'm so tired of seeing those two teams. So I guess if you wanted my worst scenario, it's Boston Lakers in the finals. I'll cover it. I'll talk about it. I'll be here. But like, if you wanted to just murder me, and I know the NBA would love it.
The NBA would love it.
Love.
They would love Lakers and Golden State in the conference finals, and they would love one of those two teams to play Boston in the finals.
Yeah, the Steph Curry takes on all those Boston guys who shoot threes.
If they have to see OKC and Cleveland in the finals, I would love it as a basketball fan. But the NBA would be
those ratings would not be good.
No,
for them, for all that we have to offer. So that's our little what we should say, our microscope into the playoffs.
Yeah,
which is pretty nuts if you think about it, because
it's going to be exciting.
I still kind of can't believe Denver's doing what Denver's doing.
But also, like, can you imagine, like, the Clippers? Like, this is their year out of nowhere. Like, all those years of getting so close, of getting the conference finals,
it's funny
long
because
runs.
The Clippers have been consistently in the bottom tier, but they're right there. They're right
there.
They could,
and they do have Harden and Leonard. Like, it's not like they're nobody.
No, to your point, like, name me the Houston guy. I can name you guys. Let's just go through the playoff teams. OKC, I can name people. Houston, that's my problem. 3rd seed is the Lakers, easy. 4th seed is who's the 4th? The Clippers?
The Clippers.
Easy. 5th seed is Denver right now, very easy. 6th seed is Golden State, extremely easy. Then you have Memphis. We all know Ja Morant, and then you got Minnesota, Ant-Man. Like, of the teams, Houston is the glaring one that I'm like, who did the NBA market? Who has the NBA been marketing for Houston? And the answer is nobody.
They accelerated very quickly, that team. They drafted really well. And
there's two teams that we covered in the playoffs that you have to legitimately say hats off. Houston and Detroit.
Yeah.
And we have not talked enough about the turnaround Detroit made, because Detroit, I thought, was going to be in the cellar for a long time, and they are not even in the cellar. And everyone can say, well, they're in the Eastern Conference. You can flip that thing around. Listen, Houston, hats off to you for flipping it around. Memphis did that this year after the injuries, so hats off to them, even though they're kind of wavering. But the Detroit story, that's another GM that you're like, how did you do this? Yeah. This is a fantastic move, because they're not even in the play-in. They're legitimately the 6 or possibly the 5.
It's true,
and that's a story. That's a hell of a story.
And maybe it speaks a little bit to the weakness of the East, but I don't think that should overshadow what they've accomplished. You got to beat who's in front of you, and they won more games than they lost, and.
They could easily, if they were in the playing game, we'd be like, this is impressive.
Oh yeah.
But they're way better than that.
They are.
So do you want to tell me your highlights of the OKC Lakers series? Because it basically was a series. It was a 2-game set. Both games were, I would say, entertaining. The second game was odd to me.
Yeah. A lot of ups and downs.
What did you see?
I saw in the first game, I saw a Laker team that had a plan. They figured some stuff out. They got under their skin and they shook them a little. And I think LeBron still kind of has that. I don't think it'll ever go away. He's got that superpower, for lack of a better word, that guys are still in awe of him, and they'll tell you they're not. They'll tell you that they're on the same level and stuff. But I do think he still has the ability to get in players' heads, maybe even more so now as like a 40-year-old dude. And I think that's what you saw. I think they had a game plan. I think they shook them up a little bit, and they couldn't quite recover. And I think the second game,
first game, just so everyone knows,
stick with the first game.
That was a blowout.
Yeah,
that was by third quarter. It was like over.
Yep.
And just so everyone also knows, like OKC, I think had won 11 or 12 in a row at that point.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things that I looked at it as a combination piece, right?
It was bound to happen at some point, right?
OKC was going to have a night. They were going to have a night that wasn't that great. And I think they went to LA. They probably had a great time, for lack of a better term. And then they went to the game and they laid an egg.
Yep.
So then they go back and they're in OKC for round 2.
But that game was back and forth for a while.
I thought that game was very entertaining, and then for some reason or another, the ref decided to throw out Luka. And then it was over.
Yeah.
And I heard all the interviews. I heard everybody say he was talking to a fan. The ref said, hey, he was talking to me. I tend to think that if I'm the NBA commissioner, I have a big problem with the refs doing that.
But do you think that the Lakers win that game if Luka stays in?
I don't think so, but from a standpoint of the fans, television, you really want to throw out Luka for what did he do?
I mean,
in all reality,
the regular season at least, you definitely don't want to do that in the playoffs.
They won't do it in the playoffs, but that's my point. It's like, what are you doing? And my favorite thing was, did you see what the OKC coach said?
No.
I'm really happy the referee stood up for the integrity of the game. It was the best quote ever because it was two things at once. He respected the referees, which is what you have to do in the playoffs. You have to play the games with the refs. Phil Jackson, Popovich, all those guys did the games with the ref, right?
Yeah.
So he's telling the refs that he really respects how they did it. And at the same time, talking about Luka's lack of integrity. I was like,
throwing shade.
You couldn't ask for a better, cleaner. It's a clean quote. It's not, and he's a young coach. And I was like, he could have said, I didn't like it. That was not, we wanted to play Luka out there. Then the refs go, hey, this guy's bashing us can't do that as a coach. You got to play those games like Popovich would say, like Shaq's toes on the free throw line. Or Phil Jackson. You remember after they would get a loss, they'd win one game, then they lose, and they go, well, the refs really have to, they have to call this foul. They have to call this. They have to do this. Like, they always played the mind games in between the games of the series. Remember that?
Right.
So, like, I looked at the OKC coach, and I was like, that's a good line. That is a good line.
I mean, he's a surgeon on the basketball court. It makes sense that he'd be a surgeon, in the press conference, too.
So, OKC, you got a legit coach.
They got a legit coach. They got a legit everything.
So looking at that series, did that make you think, the Lakers are real, or did that make you just go, it's regular season?
No, it made me think the Lakers are real. I hate to admit it, but it made me think that, like, it might not be enough to get them over the top, but like LeBron's not going to be like a quick out. And I know it's Luka's team kind of now, but I think as long as LeBron's there, I'm always going to think of him as the top dog.
This is where I have to give hats off for OKC. They played themselves into the 1 seed.
Mm-hmm.
They get by far the worst team coming out. That 8 seed will be the worst team. It may be Memphis, maybe Denver, maybe Dallas, maybe Sacramento, but it's going to be a team that has not done that well. And you're going to face a well-oiled, in crazy environment in OKC. And I can see OKC wiping the floor with whoever they face in the first round, which is to their advantage.
Even if it's Minnesota?
I like Minnesota a lot. I struggle with them a lot because I'm like, why aren't you not better?
Yeah.
But if it's Minnesota, OKC, golly. So I just think that we'll review the matchups of the playoffs before we get going. But my thought is, if OKC faces that team that's on a downward trend as the 8 seed, just for example, and they can take care of business, 2 through 7 matchups going to be really difficult. 3-6 going to be hard. 4-5. Those matchups in the Western Conference, if you told me it's OKC made it, I'd say obviously. Mm-hmm. Then if you said the 5, 6, and 7 made it too, based on the Western Conference, I would say I'm not shocked by that.
No, I wouldn't be shocked either.
And even like if the Lakers lose 2 games and they end up as the 6 or the 4 or the 5, because that can all happen. Like, again,
totally.
We'll look at the playoffs when we do, but the Eastern Conference to me has a real clear cut. These are the top 4 teams. I would be surprised if those 4 teams are not in the next round. On the Western Conference, the only team that I would be absolutely floored about would be OKC.
You're not betting the house on any of those teams with the exception of the Thunder.
I would say the Thunder are for sure going to be in the second round. And if they didn't get to the second round, me and you are going to be talking off-season moves. Because that would drive me crazy. To have this good of a year and to be, you're going to have 60-plus wins. Legitimately the number 1 seed by a mile, and you can't lose to the 8 seed.
No. Even if they lose in the second round, I'm going to be stunned. And I'm going to wonder if they pick up the phone, call the Phoenix Suns GM, say, what's it going to take to get KD?
Are we on to the Suns topics? I thought we had a couple more to go. So
it's up to you, man. I don't want to put any undue stress on you.
There's no undue stress from a standpoint of the team that you talked about just before we go to the Suns. The team that you talked about that's going to the playoffs that is surprising to me is you mentioned the Clippers.
Mm-hmm.
They legit have great players and they legit can make some noise. And I am legitimately not even thinking that they're a threat.
You forget about them.
I absolutely, until you were like, but they have Leonard. I'm like, but they do. They have Harden. I'm like,
not to mention Norman Powell, who's having a great year.
They have a legit squad.
And Zubats is a great center. They have a good team.
So, they're not an easy out.
No way.
Even the first round, they're not an easy out. And if those guys all let's commit, let's get this, let's go after it, because again.
And we talked a lot about teams that are hungry, right? There's the young teams that are hungry, but then there's the old guard that's hungry. The Clippers are hungry too. Harden's never won.
But who's talking about them? They're talking about the Lakers and they're talking about Golden State. That's all I hear them talking about.
And it's the best thing for the Clippers. If I was a Clippers fan, I'd be so happy. Keep us in the dark. Just hide us under a rock and that's fine because there was I feel like the NBA got tired of the Clippers. For a few years, they're in the Chris Paul, Blake Griffin years.
Yep.
Everyone was kind of expecting that one of these years the Clippers are going to break through and they're going to win something. And it never happened. And now it's we don't want to hear about the Clippers anymore. They're done. They're cooked, but they're not. They are a threat.
And they could legitimately end up at a 4.
Oh, totally.
Which is, you could have the Clippers and Lakers with home field advantage in the first round.
Mm-hmm.
Facing off against possibly Golden State.
And it would absolutely not stun me to see them in the finals, in the conference finals.
I would be very interested in the Clippers OKC. That would
that would be a fun series.
There's so many good series that can come out of the Western Conference in the first round. Okay, this is the difference between the Eastern Conference and the Western Conference. The first round of the Western Conference is gonna be awesome.
Yep.
I don't even care. The 1-8 could be. You just said OKC faces Minnesota. I'm interested
Because all these teams, you look at the scoreboard from night to night, they all beat each other.
And OKC plays Denver. I'm really interested.
Yep.
And that's a 1-8. And I'm not even remotely interested in the Eastern Conference 1-8. I'm like, Cleveland, who? Okay, Cleveland moves on. And if you said, oh, Cleveland took 6 games, I'd say, what did it take them so long?
Who does Denver have for the rest of the year? For the rest of
their
what's their schedule?
Snorkeling.
Because I know it's possible, but like we gotta clear this up. Like, are they really gonna fall to the 8th spot? So they're playing Sacramento, who's fighting to stay in.
They're not gonna give up. They're not.
They're playing Memphis, the two late season coaching firings, and then they got Houston the last game of the season, which Houston might not play full strength that day. They might not even have.
Denver may not either, but Denver could go 0-3. They go 0-3. They're legitimately going because Memphis plays Minnesota. I know that's a game, and Golden State's hot. The Lakers are hot. This is like legitimately going to be the Western Conference is going to have some great match. You cannot not have great matchups. The Lakers versus whoever I'm interested. The Clippers versus whoever I'm interested. Golden State, I want to see who you play. And if Golden State upsets somebody, I'm not surprised.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not surprised that the Lakers are out in the first round, and I'm not surprised that they're in the Western Conference. And hell, I'm not even surprised if they make a run to the finals.
Yeah.
So that's how wild the Western Conference to me is.
The Wild West.
But yes, you're correct about OKC. So let's get into the. Let's talk about the Suns are having fan appreciation week this week. By the way,
perfect timing.
It's. I legitimately am remembering. I was watching them and I'm like, this is embarrassing that I was like, oh, they're making the playoffs. KD gets hurt, so his time with the Suns is basically done. Beal's not good. You said you had some theories, and I shake my head. This is just such a terrible ending to the story, by the way.
Yeah.
For a Suns fan. But you're like, there's some hope. So tell me your hope scenario. Tell me what you see because you watch clearly more Suns games than I do on a regular basis. As great as Durant is it possible that Booker has been less himself with Durant around? I've thought when Booker and Durant play, they're very, very good together.
Oh, they are good together.
The two of them together are very good. The three of them, Beal, KD, and Booker,
that's where
is not there. And then Beal Durant is not the same, and Booker and Beal are not the same. So Beal's like kind of the odd man out with a no trade clause. So
the reason I say that is because, for the championship run, it was the Book show with a great cast of.
You had Chris Paul, you have Ayton, they had a
Bridges, Cam Johnson.
Oh, they had some great D's. They had a team. Yeah. They don't have a team right now. So like when you said they're going to get something for Durant, I'm like, so they're going to get a team for Durant because they need a team.
And that's where I'm going with this. So they played the Knicks the other day, and I saw Booker look otherworldly, and he almost willed them back to a win all by himself.
He's legit.
And I'm just thinking, okay, they have no Durant, and they got a lot of guys that would probably be on G League teams.
Yes.
I'm just like, if they just build around Booker again and just get some really good, solid pieces around him, is it crazy to think that they're a solid contender again in 2 years?
The problem with the Western Conference, now I know we don't know if when they're going to come back, is it's stacked and it's stacked with the young, great talent. So the question that you asked me is like, who is Durant getting traded to and what do they get for it? Because if it's a Durant AD trade, if it's something like that, it's over. Like it's way over. So like how much they get for Durant is in essence going to tell me if they are 5 years, 10 years. If I need to also look at Booker's not going to re-sign with them and he's also going to leave, you need to trade him too. Because I have been of the opinion that, like, I don't think Booker's going to win you a championship. I think he crumbles in key moments, which is why Durant was so good with him, because Durant does not.
Right.
I would put a package of Durant Booker, or I would trade both Booker and Durant, and then I would say, this is what we are, and go from there. I don't know what that looks like, but I can guarantee you the Suns fans would be hating the fact that Booker would leave.
Yeah.
But I don't
He's their guy.
I don't see a future where Booker re-signs with them. Like, you have to have a great trade with KD, and the Suns are not known for making great trades.
Let's be honest. The real problem was the Beal trade. Because if without Beal, you got the flexibility to do something else. To build around those two.
And the problem with the Beal trade is that nobody wants him, and he has a no trade clause. Even if he didn't have a no trade clause, who is going to pay $50 million for that? That's the problem. So you're going to pay Beal to go away. That's the way that I look at it. Or you trade the other two $50 million guys, and you say, hey, we're in our rebuilding phase. We're going after draft picks, or we're going. I mean, again, I don't know who is going to want, or who's going to think that. To your point, the Western Conference has 7 teams that believe they should win it. You put Booker on Houston, you need to tell me he's not going to be great.
Oh, that would be.
You put KD on Houston, you tell me that's not going to work. I mean, just those 2 guys on Houston make Houston a legitimately top 3 team next year right away.
Yeah.
Whatever you're giving up for that, I believe in that coach and I believe in that system. Now, do they want one of those players? I don't know. But then you go back to the other side. Booker on Detroit.
Or Durant even. Detroit.
That makes Detroit extremely scary.
Ooh, Booker and Cade Cunningham as a backcourt. That's scary.
So, like, there's some teams that are in need. And at the end of the day, the Suns have got to decide what they are and what they aren't. What they aren't is they aren't making the playoffs the way they are. And you're going into final years of deals, and you're paying these 3 guys $150 million. You can do the whole tribute thing. They traded Luka from Dallas. You can say, oh, this is what it is. And you can just say, we're going to get, this is what we're going to get for it. I don't know what that is, because I don't know what Detroit or Houston can even offer you. I would like OKC, because OKC has the most picks and the most players. But again, you got to hope OKC stumbles and falls in the playoffs, doesn't hit clutch shots. But I would say OKC wants Durant more than they want Booker.
Yeah, I see Houston as much as, I've been talking up the idea of a KD return to OKC. I think OKC would really have to stumble in the playoffs to want to get in the Durant business again, and I just don't see that happening. Houston, I could see them, getting a little stage fright and not making it out of the second round, or even getting knocked off in the first round.
Very possible.
And then I think they would be very eager to turn to Durant.
And at the same time, if you look at the Eastern Conference, Milwaukee is going to be interested in trading, because we all talk about what's going to happen in the offseason there. Is it possible that you could get
Durant and Giannis playing together?
No. Get Giannis off of Milwaukee.
Oh yeah, no. I think that's a real possibility.
Like, if you ask me, like, you get Giannis, and this is in, like, you get KD to Milwaukee and you have Giannis and Booker, that's legit.
Mm-hmm.
I'm interested. That's fun. I don't know what that means. I don't know if it wins the championship, but it makes the Suns a relevant conversation.
For sure.
But, like, there's a lot to be said, and the question is, what are the phone calls, and how many are the Suns going to make, and what are they listening to? Because you got to have Beal, and I think you're just going to pay Beal to walk away.
They'll do their due diligence. They'll throw it all out there and see what they can come up.
Well, you in a season that's terrible, this is the best part about sports. The Suns season is terrible. There's no other way to package this. It's really bad. We both agree. It's just bad. In a season that's this bad, I'm walking in the offseason with optimism, because I know they can make some deals, because they do have some legit talent.
Mm-hmm.
And then I get to watch the playoffs, and I go, who's going to stumble and be very interested? Because nothing for nothing, when push comes to shove, if you need a shot at the last second of any kind of game, KD's your guy.
KD is your guy.
And I've watched him hit big bucket after big bucket after big bucket with guys in his face, draped all over him. He's just legit. So the question becomes, I know he didn't want to play for Golden State again. What's that conversation with KD going to be like? Because at the end of the day, is this how you want to go out? Is this what you want to do? And I don't see him going out as a Sun.
I don't either. I mean, look what he did with Brooklyn, right? He wanted to carve his own niche in Brooklyn. It didn't work out. Kyrie bailed, and I mean, he just followed suit. It was like, in a matter of days, he was like, all right, I'm out. So I think it's going to be.
So I'll be watching the Western Conference from that perspective, and also the Eastern Conference, because to your point, like, he gets on a team full of tough guys. He doesn't have to worry about ever getting fouled hard.
Yeah.
Because if anyone touches him hard or pushes him around, because right now the Suns have no enforcers. Like, if you want to foul KD hard, what are we going to do?
Yeah.
We got nobody.
Who's stepping up?
Like, if he's on Houston or Detroit, just for the record, and somebody fouls KD hard, you're going to get it. Like, you're going to legitimately get a foul to your shoulder or your arm. I mean, someone from Houston is going to take a nice flagrant 2 and call it a day.
Yeah.
Because they're not going to let KD get messed with. And that's the other thing. I mean, I know it's not the NHL, but I think he does need some protection.
For sure.
So we are in for an interesting time. We're probably gonna do a wrap-up end of the year session and see what that looks like. So if you have your crystal ball, which we've been wrong before, do you what's your dream first round matchup in the Western Conference that you would just say, like, you would be excited? Not what ESPN, not what the big heads want, that you would be like, legitimately, this is great.
This might sound funny coming from me, but I think it would be kind of fun if somehow LA and LA ended up 4-5 and played each other in the first round. I think that would be a cool little story.
I just don't see the Clippers beating the Lakers.
I'd root like crazy for the Clippers, but
the Clippers, that's like that little brother syndrome. They just never feel like they can beat them.
They can't. But
you're just like, they can't. Doesn't even matter.
No, it doesn't matter. I'm done. I'm done with the old guard. So give me Houston against. Well, it's probably not going to happen, but give me like Houston against Golden State in the first round, and let's see Houston take him out.
The two teams that I think are possible of happening, I think OKC Denver would be great, or Houston Denver would be great.
Yeah,
I think that's it. Denver playing those two teams right off the bat would be great.
Houston Denver would be fun,
and it may be like they may be 4 and out, like Denver may be out like that.
Yeah,
but it's still, I can't see Joker getting swept.
No, and I would probably say the same thing about OKC Minnesota, which is a possibility. Maybe Minnesota finds a way to win a game.
This has been a tragic year for Minnesota. I really would be surprised if the Minnesota coach is still there after this season. I just feel it's been a bad job. I just feel Minnesota has got the talent. I mean, I know they traded away, but I mean, if you look at Minnesota,
they had a trade. That trade happened right before the season started. I think
no excuses to be where they're at though. 8 right now. There's no excuses.
They should be better.
I mean, especially if I'm Ant-Man, I'm like, dude, I'm 8 seed. Come on, you wanted to kill people? You should be in the top 4.
Yeah.
Like, that's legitimately a thing. My favorite other part of this whole thing is the Luka Dallas trade. Did you hear that some are comparing it to the Babe Ruth trade?
Really? I had not heard that comparison.
And for the record, this is how silly everybody is. Does everyone know that Dallas did get a player?
They did.
They didn't just get some money and some bats and some crap.
Right.
They got a legitimate player. Now, he's not playing, or he's been hurt, or he's not playing that well. This trade is literally looked at like AD is absolutely and utterly useless. So I don't know if AD's he needs to go see a psychologist or whatever he needs to do.
Well, either they know something that we don't know, or they're just ignoring the fact that he's a Hall of Famer. I mean,
you think J Kidd's back? I don't think he's back.
Does he want to be back?
No, I don't think he does. I think he's like, I'm out.
I could see him.
To your point about Dallas getting into the playoffs, I feel like Dallas was really upset when Katie got hurt.
You know what? I'll walk that back though. If Kyrie is in, I think Kidd'll be in. And I think that they will be brazen enough to say, "Hey, let's try to make this work. Let's," that's the piece that for me, like, I think Kyrie's gonna have a chip on his shoulder when he comes back for them.
Do you think they trade him?
Up until this point, I mean, he loves it there. It sounds like,
according to Luka, he loved it there too. They traded him. So, like, again, if you're talking about putting people on the block, I don't know what Dallas is looking like. But let's just say Jay Kidd leaves, and then they're sitting there and like they said they wanted to go for a championship with Kyrie. But again, proof's in the pudding. We'll see what they do in the offseason.
It sounds to me like they chose to go Kyrie over Doncic, which I think both players were fine doing it together, but for whatever reason they pitted them against each other and they said, let's just go with Kyrie. So my hunch is that marriage lasts at least another year.
Okay. But we agree that the Suns' marriage is over.
I think so.
Oh,
Katie is getting antsy.
I'm hoping that you're correct, because if you're not correct, then that's a problem. So I hope you're correct. And so as we end the regular season, we get to as everyone would say, the real season is about to begin. We're going to be covering the playoffs before the series starts. You're going to hear your predictions here from our NBA all-knowledgeable person here, Nolan, obviously Knicks for the championship, and then myself, Suns for the trade. And we'll be with you. We'll walk through all this fun stuff with you. I think the ratings, the ratings should be a win. I would be shocked if it's not, but the NBA ratings have been down for quite a bit. So it'll be interesting. The playoffs are certainly interesting.
Yeah, it'll be fun to go through some matchups next week once we got them.
Yeah, the fact that we still don't have them, and we have so little. Like, we have nothing.
It's true.
That's what's crazy about this whole thing, is like there's a lot to happen here in the next couple.
There is. There's a lot of moving parts.
And a part of me before this, I was like, oh, maybe you can position yourself. You can't even position yourself.
No.
Like, there's too many factors. So I think 1, 2, 3 are pretty set. In my opinion, I think it's going to end up being OKC, Houston, and then the Lakers. I think 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. I have no idea.
No.
So good luck.
It'll be fun.
Yes, absolutely. Well, thank you, Nolan, for joining. Thanks, everybody, for joining us on another episode of Hoop and Harm. I'm your host, Brendan, and don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to like us and share us. And obviously, we will share with you what we know about the NBA. Thanks, everybody.